Have you ever noticed that the most terrifying villains aren't always the ones covered in blood? In Kill Bill, a retired sushi chef with kind eyes and a gentle smile is introduced as one of the most dangerous men alive, yet we never see him throw a single punch or draw a sword. This isn't a plot hole. It's Quentin Tarantino at his absolute best, using restraint and reputation to create something far more powerful than any fight scene could ever be. So in this video, I'm going to reveal why Hattori Hanzo represents the most brilliant example of show don't tell in modern cinema. The hidden philosophy that makes him more dangerous than every assassin in the film combined. And the sneaky way Tarantino uses his character to completely reframe our understanding of power and violence. But first, let me show you exactly how Tarantino builds one of cinema's most intimidating characters, using nothing but whispers, legends, and a 5-minute conversation about sushi. The genius of Hattori Hanzo starts long before we ever meet him. When the bride arrives in Okinawa, we're given context through the scene's dialogue and pacing, explaining that if she were to encounter certain obstacles requiring a sword, there was only one man alive who could help her. Not many men, not several options. One. This immediately establishes scarcity and exclusivity. Then comes the line that hooks you completely. Hattori Hanzo, a man who made the finest swords on earth, though he'd sworn never to make another. Pay attention to what Tarantino just did there. He's creating a curiosity gap. Why would the world's greatest swordsmith stop making swords? What happened? The question plants itself in your mind, and you're invested before the character even appears on screen. When we finally meet Hanzo, the scene is masterfully constructed to subvert every expectation. This is where Tarantino's understanding of psychology becomes clear. We expect a warrior. We expect someone physically imposing, perhaps scarred, dangerous looking. Instead, we get Sonny Chiba playing a cheerful, somewhat silly sushi restaurant owner who speaks broken English and giggles at his own jokes. He's obsessed with making perfect sushi. He corrects his apprentice's knife work. He seems completely harmless, almost comical. This is intentional misdirection, and it's brilliant because it mirrors real-world power. The truly dangerous people rarely advertise it. They don't need to. Watch how the scene unfolds when the bride drops his name. She doesn't arrive with a formal introduction. She comes to see a man, and then she says the name, Hattori Hanzo. The old man insists, "I am Hattori Hanzo." But he plays dumb, confused, as if she must be mistaken. It's only when she persists, when she speaks to him in Japanese and mentions Bill's name, that everything changes. The mask drops. The jovial sushi chef vanishes, replaced instantly by something colder, sharper, more focused. His entire demeanor shifts. This transformation happens without violence, without even raising his voice. It's pure presence. The air in the room becomes heavy. This is the mark of a truly dangerous person in storytelling. They don't need to demonstrate their power because their reputation, their history, and their mere acknowledgement of who they truly are carries more weight than any action sequence ever could. Now let's talk about what makes Hanzo dangerous beyond his skill. Throughout the Kill Bill universe, we meet countless killers. O-Ren Ishii, Vernita Green, L Driver, Bud. All of them are lethal. All of them have body counts. But Hanzo occupies a different tier entirely. And here's why. He's the source. Every weapon of significance in the film's universe traces back to him or exists in relation to his legacy. When Gogo Yubari swings her meteor hammer, when the bride faces the crazy 88 with their various blades, when LA Driver boasts about her sword training, all of it exists in the shadow of Hanzo's work. He didn't just participate in the world of violence, he armed it. He enabled it. He created the instruments of death that countless others used. This makes him complicit in hundreds, perhaps thousands of deaths without ever swinging a blade himself. This is where Tarantino reveals his genius in character construction. Hanzo represents the banality of evil in its most distilled form. He wasn't killing out of passion or revenge or duty. He was a craftsman who happened to craft death. The swords he made were so perfect, so beautiful, so superior to anything else in existence that they became legendary. People sought them out, killed for them. Wars were likely fought with them. And Hanzo? He just kept perfecting his art, one blade at a time, removed from the consequences of his creations. Until he couldn't anymore. The oath Hanzo swore, never to make another sword, is the film's most important detail about his character, and it's delivered almost casually. We learn he made this promise to God, which in itself is significant. Not to a person, not to a government or organization, to God. This suggests that whatever made him stop wasn't external pressure but internal reckoning. Something happened that made him look at his life's work and realize he'd been creating instruments of death with the same care and pride a painter brings to a canvas. The weight of that realization, the countless deaths his art enabled, drove him to permanently retire. This isn't a man who stopped because he got old or lost his touch. He stopped because he understood what he'd become. Here's where it gets even more interesting. When the bride mentions Bill's name, everything changes because suddenly Hanzo has context for breaking his sacred oath. Bill was his student. Bill learned from him, was armed by him, and then went on to become one of the most dangerous assassins in the world. In Hanzo's eyes, Bill represents his greatest failure, a perfect example of how his work directly created a monster. So when this woman appears, scarred and determined, seeking revenge against Bill, Hanzo sees an opportunity not just for her vengeance, but for his own redemption. By crafting one final sword, he can undo some of the damage his previous work created. The student who became a demon can be struck down by a blade from the teacher who enabled him. It's poetic, circular, and deeply philosophical. The sword-making scene itself deserves analysis because Tarantino could have made it an extended sequence showing Hanzo's process, his technique, the physical mastery required. Instead, we get a montage. We see glimpses, the heating of steel, the hammering, the folding, but it's brief, almost reverent. The focus isn't on the how, it's on the why and the what it represents. When Hanzo finally presents the completed sword to the bride, his words are simple but loaded with meaning. I can tell you with no ego, this is my finest sword. If on your journey you should encounter God, God will be cut. Think about that line. He's not just commenting on the sword's sharpness or quality. He's saying this weapon transcends earthly limitations. It can cut through anything, including the divine. For a man who swore his oath to God, creating something that can theoretically kill God is the ultimate transgression and the ultimate gift. He's giving her omnipotence in blade form. And here's what makes Hanzo truly dangerous in ways that go beyond fighting: his understanding of legacy and consequence. Every assassin in Kill Bill operates in the present. They kill, they move on, they kill again. Their impact is immediate and personal. But Hanzo's impact ripples across time and space. The sword he gives the bride doesn't just kill Bill. It changes the entire trajectory of the story. It's the ultimate equalizer that allows her to face impossible odds. Without that sword, she likely dies in the House of Blue Leaves. Without that sword, she never reaches Bill. One object, created by a man who never enters combat, determines the fate of everyone in the film. That's power. That's danger. Not in the explosive, immediate sense, but in the quiet, inevitable way that reshapes reality. There's also something deeply unsettling about Hanzo's calm acceptance of violence. He's removed from it personally, yet he understands it intimately. When the bride proves herself with a Hanzo blade, slicing a baseball mid-air, Hanzo watches with the pride of an artist seeing his work appreciated. He's not disturbed by what this sword will do. He knows it will kill, will maim, will destroy. That's its purpose. His only concern is that it does so perfectly. This detachment, this ability to create instruments of death while maintaining emotional distance from their use, is what makes him psychologically dangerous. He's proof that you don't need bloodlust or rage to be deadly. You just need skill, knowledge, and the willingness to apply them without flinching. Let's pause here for a moment, because if you're enjoying this deep dive into the hidden psychology of Tarantino's characters, and you want more breakdowns like this, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Alright, back to why Hanzo represents something even more dangerous than we've discussed so far. The brilliance of Hanzo's character is that he forces us to reconsider what danger actually means. In action films, we're conditioned to equate danger with physical prowess. The person who can fight the hardest, shoot the straightest, or kill the most efficiently is deemed the most dangerous. But Tarantino, ever the subversive filmmaker, presents us with a different model. Hanzo is dangerous because of knowledge. He knows techniques, metallurgy, and craftsmanship that no one else possesses. He understands the anatomy of death in ways that even the killers who use his swords don't fully grasp. When you watch the bride wield that Hanzo sword, you're not just watching her skill, you're watching his knowledge made manifest. Every cut, every block, every kill is executed with a weapon optimized beyond perfection. She's piloting his genius. There's also a historical context worth mentioning. The name Hattori Hanzo references a real historical figure from feudal Japan. A Sengoku-era samurai and Tokugawa retainer who was later mythologized and absorbed into the popular ninja archetype. Tarantino's choice to name his swordsmith after this historical figure is no accident. It creates a bridge between the film's universe and real-world legend, suggesting that his character carries the weight of that history. The name itself becomes a weapon, a brand that signifies excellence and lethality. When people in the Kill Bill universe hear Hattori Hanzo's sword, they know exactly what that means. It's a death sentence with a signature. Another layer to Hanzo's danger is his selectivity. He doesn't make swords for just anyone. When the bride arrives, he could have refused. He'd already sworn his oath. He had his quiet life making sushi. But he chooses to break that oath for her, which means he's making a calculated decision about who deserves to wield his final creation. This judgment, this ability to assess who is worthy of ultimate power, is itself a form of danger. Hanzo becomes a gatekeeper, deciding who gets access to godlike weaponry. If he'd judged wrong, if he'd given that sword to the wrong person, the consequences would be catastrophic. The fact that he trusts the bride with it speaks to his ability to read people, to understand their hearts and intentions. That kind of insight is terrifying because it means he sees through pretense, through performance, straight to the core of who someone is. The final element that makes Hanzo so dangerous is his immunity to the violence he enables. Every other character in Kill Bill suffers consequences for their participation in the violent world. The bride is beaten, left for dead, loses her child. Oren is beheaded. Vernita is killed in front of her daughter. Elle loses an eye and potentially her life. Bud is killed by a snake. Bill is killed by the bride. Even the minor characters, the Crazy 88, Johnny Moe, Sophie, everyone pays a price. Everyone except Hanzo. He returns to his sushi restaurant, his oath broken but his purpose fulfilled, completely untouched by the carnage his final sword enables, aside from a tiny kitchen nick that reminds you he's a craftsman, not a combatant. He exists outside the cycle of revenge and consequence that consumes everyone else. That's perhaps the most dangerous position of all. To participate in violence, to enable it, to profit from it in terms of legacy and reputation, but to remain completely insulated from its repercussions. In the end, Hattori Hanzo represents Tarantino's meditation on the nature of power and complicity. He's a character who proves that danger doesn't require action. It requires capability and choice. The capacity for violence, held in check by will, is more terrifying than violence itself. We fear the bride because we see what she can do. We fear Bill because we know his history. But we should fear Hanzo most of all, because he could arm the world or disarm it. And his decision alone determines which path reality takes. He's the kingmaker, the power behind the throne, the hand that forges destiny without ever drawing blood in battle. Tarantino shows us that the most dangerous man in the room is often the quietest one. The one who doesn't need to prove anything because his reputation precedes him, and his skills speak through the work of others. Hattori Hanzo never fights because he doesn't have to. He's already won before the first blade is drawn, simply by being who he is and creating what only he can create. That's mastery. That's power. And that's what makes him the most dangerous man in Kill Bill, even though we never see him commit an act of violence on screen. So the next time you watch Kill Bill, pay attention to that quiet sushi chef. Notice how Tarantino uses silence, restraint, and reputation to build menace. Notice how the film's entire second half hinges on one man's decision to make one final sword. And ask yourself, in a world full of killers, who's really the most dangerous? The person pulling the trigger, or the person who made the gun? If this breakdown changed the way you see the film, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I break down the villains, anti-heroes, and morally complex characters that make Tarantino's films unforgettable, finding the psychology and philosophy hidden in plain sight. Drop a comment and let me know what character I should analyze next. And if you want to go even deeper into Tarantino's universe, check out my video on the psychology of El Driver himself. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next breakdown.